2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Why do I keep acting out when things are going good?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. Some guests on in the last few episodes. We had some really good guests on. I think we're going to have another one today, so this will be good. But we got a couple of new reviews, and we like reading our reviews because we appreciate the shout outs that we get and the feedback that we get. So I'm just going to read one today, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this one just says, "Wow, podcast gold." It says, "I just got through listening to the podcast on building trust, number 192. Seriously, that discussion was absolute gold. I recognize over the last 4 years of recovery so many pitfalls that I stepped into. I wish I would have known some of those things years ago. I also recognize consciously or subconsciously the things that I did right in rebuilding trust. I'm still a work in progress. The plan that you outlined near the end of the podcast is just so wonderful. Thank you for having the heart for the betrayed and the betrayer. You are truly God sent."
Wow.
So don't want to make your head too big, Brandon, but that's a pretty awesome review.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's just good to know that us talking into these mics does some good for someone. So.
Yeah. And it's really cool to hear, like you can hear inside that review itself, that there's been a several year process that's actually working for somebody too, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's great. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Tyler, thank you for sharing that review. That made my day. So it really did. It really makes me happy. So, but I say we dive right in with David here.
Let's go.
So David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. If you could give us a little bit of background, kind of tell us what's going on in your recovery, where you're at, and then ask any questions that you have.
Yeah, let me give a couple of the two biggest obstacles right now. I'm autistic and I have ADHD.
Okay.
I did not find out I was autistic until about 3 years ago. And the only reason why I got tested was because my son is autistic. And I noticed, wow, I used to act exactly like him. So I've had an addiction to porn since probably I was about 7 years old. Back when I was a kid, it was easy access to get the Playboy magazine. They were all over the grocery store. You could just grab it and look at it. There was no covers on it, the plastic covers that they do now. And I've brought this into my life. And with my wife, I've been married for 16 years right now. So just there's been some past trauma with my parents and stuff like that. Childhood trauma. So I'm kind of fuzzy on where I should go here with my background, but whatever, if you guys want to ask questions, it'd probably be a little bit. Sure.
David, what's going on now with your recovery and with your relationship?
Okay, so what's going on now is that I started going through recovery. My wife found out that I was looking at porn again, and this was probably around, I'm going to say Thanksgiving. And it'd been about a couple of years since I had not looked at it, but started acting out like I needed that porn again. During the recovery, I also started having an emotional affair, which led to some kissing with a female coworker. So I actually disclosed that to my wife. I had kind of a breakdown at work where the guilt just got to me too much. I had to call my pastor and called one of the guys that I work with not work with, but one of the guys I deal with at my 12-step program. And I just had to get it and talk to my wife about it, and I let her know. We're kind of working through this. This is the third affair I've had, and it's a lot worse for her this time, but we're getting there, and I know it's going to take a lot. So things were going really good, and I was still acting out, and managed to have this small little affair. And I'm not minimizing the affair; it was still an affair. But I still managed to do that while things were starting to get good with me and my wife. And this is the problem I have. Even when things are good, I'll start acting out using the porn and everything like that. And like I said, it had been 2 years, and I started doing it again.
What are you doing what have you done to address it? Have you gone to therapy? Like what? Yeah.
Good. So right now I'm seeing a therapist to deal with some of the trauma that I have from childhood trauma there. I see my pastor probably once every 2 weeks, and I'm going to 12-step every week. And I'm actually talking a lot to my wife and answering her questions, trying to be open. That's a very tough one for me because it's like the same question over and over and over again. And it's starting to kind of get on me. So, Lord, hey, I've already answered your question. You already know that answer. Why are you asking it over and over again? But the therapy's new. And I've been to these kind of therapies before, but nothing's ever lasted, where I had one therapist tell me that looking at porn was fine. And another therapist that he didn't want to seem to deal with any of the things. He just liked the fact that I had autism and ADHD and wanted to just work around that. And this is the first time I've really dealt with working with a pastor. So in a 12-step program. So some of these things are new. And now, listening to more and more podcasts, trying to get an idea of where my trauma comes from and why that makes me act out and stuff like that. That's kind of where I'm going. But during this breakdown that I had, I haven't had really any urge to act out or do anything since. And I honestly, I have to say it was almost like God inspired that made me want to confess to her what was going on and get that out of my system, to the point where she said, okay, she wanted to get a divorce. And I felt, okay, I would be okay with that because I'm working on me now. And from there, I can work back on me and my wife and get that relationship going, because she's always told me that she's always going to love me. And, maybe the marriage isn't working now, but maybe it will in the future. So that keeps me driven this time, unlike other times where I felt like it was just a threat and, we'll get past it and everything like that.
Okay. So I think you kind of answered the question that I have, but maybe just a little bit more clarity on this.
Yes.
If I understand your history a little bit, there's been some waves here where there's been like something will happen, you get either discovered or you disclose something, then you commit to doing something for a little while, but then it fades. And then you've have it go through it again. You've been through, it sounds like 3 affairs plus whatever the addiction has been over the 16 years of marriage. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
the addiction was with me in my prior marriage as well, but my ex-wife liked to look at the porn too. So I really didn't think much of it until I got into this marriage.
Okay. So with all of those different kind of start-stop periods and the effort that you're putting in, it sounds like you're doing some additional things this time, but I'm wondering more about the motivation for why you're doing the start period again. Like, is it different this time in your motivation for why you're doing what you're doing than it has been in the past, or is it similar?
No, it's totally different. I feel different about everything.
What feels different? How is it different?
The amount of guilt that I had, which I've always felt guilty and shameful and everything like that. But the amount of guilt that I had this time, just, it finally just burst on me, where I had to tell my wife and I had to get this out and I had to start making amends. And I felt like something just pushed me to do this and start doing the right thing. And it was just an incredible feeling, because that night where I ended up breaking up with the girl, to the next night where I confessed to my wife, I was sick. I had a migraine. Just felt like the worst thing. Like there was a huge battle going on inside me. And it finally just burst, where I had to stop everything I was doing. And this happened at work, to where I was almost in tears at work, and I had to just stop. And I couldn't do this anymore, to my wife, to myself, to my family. So something, like I said, something just got inside me that just made me have to do everything. And I confessed to my wife. And then during the disclosure, that night, I kind of made everything, I softened everything up, but then I had another disclosure with her where I just opened up about everything. And that was, I think, a day later or 2 days later.
Okay. So your reason for meeting with your pastor every other week, for going to therapy and working on your childhood stuff, for working your 12-step program on a weekly basis right now, is now more driven from the inside out than it is the outside in, where you're not doing it just to perform, to make everyone else happy, but it sounds like you want to be able to figure out this thing that happened inside of you, this emotion that came through, this remorse, this regret, this guilt that you felt, and understanding yourself and figuring your stuff out now. It's more of an internally motivated process than maybe it has been in the past.
Yeah, the shame was just unbearable, because I've always had that. And of course, I always try to avoid it, gaslighting, whatever I need to do to avoid it. And I don't want to make this sound bad, but my wife is very sharp with her words. So when she starts going off on me, that shame, where I thought I was feeling the lowest, I feel even lower at that point, because of the way she does it. And she has every right to. So, but, so this time it was just, like I said, just something snapped, something totally different.
Mm-hmm. I think what I'm hearing is the makings of the beginning of the right kind of recovery work. Mm-hmm. I hear that you're kind of early on in the process, and there's definitely going to be a lot of work and probably a lot of discomfort and pain to work through as you do it. But I often hear my clients reference that something snapping inside. And when that happens, there is a little bit of a difference in the heart with which things get done. Mm-hmm. When you're now going to 12-step because you genuinely want to figure out how to actually really work those steps instead of just going because you're supposed to go, or when you go meet with your pastor because you're like, I got to figure my stuff out, you're going to get a different kind of a benefit than you ever would have in the other times when your heart was only halfway in it.
Well, let me go back on this a little bit. I was seeing my pastor and still doing the 12-step while I was having the affair.
Okay.
And then I think just like the culmination of everything just really added up. And then after that, I started the therapy. After I confessed to my wife, then I got in with the therapist, and the therapist has been very good, because I was referring to the girl that I had the affair with as a safety net. because I'm always worried that everything's going to break with my wife. But my therapist said, no, let's call it what it is. That it's not a safety net, it's porn. And my therapist is very right about that, because safety net is something good. Having this with the girl was not good at all.
So this is actually going where my next question was. And I actually would say, yeah, what you were doing with the girl wasn't probably effective for your overall big goals. And it's probably not going to be overly effective for the emotional itch to scratch. But I actually think it's important. Your question to us today was, why do I keep doing this even though I'm doing all the right kind of work, in essence?
Right.
Right. And I actually think it warrants a question of, what is it? Like, what is it that this acting out has been providing for me, so that I can understand myself? Because if I understand what it's been providing, it's a gateway into understanding the needs that I've had or the unmet things that are going on in my life, so that I can then develop a new way of living to actually address those things. So when you said, hey, she was a safety net, there's a lot that goes into calling somebody a safety net.
Right.
You're hedging your bets against the fact that you don't feel worthy to be in your own current relationship. You're afraid of being completely alone and isolated. You're worried about what that actually means about you if nobody else wants to be with you. Like there's a lot of stuff, richness there, that is actually worth exploring in that term safety net.
Right. And then I'm also wondering, because of my autism and ADHD, how that is making me act out, or if it's even playing any kind of role into my addiction or anything like that.
But can I ask a question?
Of course.
It's the same question Tyler just asked. It's just a little more kind of direct and blunt. And David, why did you have affairs?
That's a really good question. I tend to get, I let myself get drawn in with women without having, I don't set my boundaries right for the first thing. And I've talked about this with my wife. So that's the first problem. I don't set my boundaries. And then I get talked in with, oh, wow, the grass is greener over here. This is nice. They understand me. They're listening to me. That makes me feel good to talk to these ladies, because, I'm only giving them my side, but it seems good enough. And they're making me feel comforted, like I'm validated and everything. Like I'm important, when I was feeling like my wife was always rejecting me.
Okay. So stop for a minute right there. You said it right there at the end. They make me feel comforted, like I'm validated, like I'm important.
Right.
Okay. So let's kind of hone in on that for a minute. When you say that, what I'm hearing you say in a roundabout way is, I don't feel important, I don't feel validated, and I don't feel comforted. And it's interesting, you turn to your wife and you say, well, I'm not getting that from her, and so I can get it from these other women. But I would say this isn't all about your wife.
No.
This is about, deep down, there's some level of discomfort, shame, trauma inside of yourself that says, I'm not okay as I am.
Right.
You used another word. Understood is another word you used when you said understood, validated, listened to, comforted, and important.
Yep. Seen. And so there's some questions that have not been answered for you, David. Now, the ADHD and the autism, they play into your cycles of compulsion and behaviors and all of those things.
Okay.
And there's also some trauma and shame that is really driving these behaviors. And if you just address the behavior, the acting out or the ADHD and the autism, then you're not actually getting down to the root of why you're doing what you're doing, and you'll continue to do it. Things were going good with your wife. Your wife was validating you, understanding you, and you were starting a new affair.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
It shows that your wife can't give you that answer.
Right.
Your wife's not going to give you that answer. So let me ask you this, David, are you important? Are you seen?
I feel like I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Okay. I feel like I am now. And there's been some good breakthroughs with me and my wife, even though she still gets traumatized or triggered with certain things that are going on. There's been some good breakthroughs. And the first thing has been that I'm talking with her, and I'm actually empathizing with her, which I'm telling you, with autism, it's very difficult to empathize with somebody unless you've actually been through it. But and the reason why I'm saying yes about this is because I'm talking to her now and I'm understanding where she's coming from. So she's not rejecting me. She's, for sex or for anything like that, she's waiting till she's in a better position to where she wants to give me 100%. And now I'm starting to understand that.
But David, hang on for a second. Tyler, do you notice what he did there when I asked the question?
You asked the question, and and you basically, before you asked the question, you said she'll never be able to answer your question, and then you asked the question, and he said, "Yeah, my wife's starting to tell me that I'm enough."
Yeah. So you took it right to your wife. The question I asked is, are you validated? Are you important? Are you seen?
Oh.
And I'm not talking about your wife. I'm not talking about your wife at all. And as long as you continue to take that question to her, you're going to continue to cheat on her. Okay. I know that sounds pretty harsh, but because she'll let you down. You'll resent her. At times you'll feel lonely. So as long as you continue to take that to her, you're going to feel like, I'm not quite getting it there and I got to get it somewhere else.
Okay.
And so then you've taken that question to other women at work who give you that answer short term, right? But where can this question really be taken, and how can you get this answer? Do you understand what I'm saying, David?
Yeah. So I'm putting the focus on somebody else instead of myself.
You're trying to get your okayness from the feminine, from you've in a way sexualized your self-worth. If somebody wants you in a sexual way or a relational way, then your worth is there. Then your value is there.
Okay.
And there's actually a whole other way to get your value and your worth and feeling understood and feeling seen that has nothing to do with sex, and it has nothing to do with relationship with a woman, with another person. And this might sound foreign. I might sound a little crazy here. Tyler, maybe you could expand.
Yeah, could I maybe let me ask another question to get to the point Brandon's making, because I think this is probably at the crux of your question, at least worth exploring. All right, David, could I ask you if you were to take the feeling of being misunderstood and just let your mind float back to the earliest time when you really felt like people couldn't understand you? How old do you think you were?
Oh, 4 or 5 years old.
Okay. And are there specific kinds of experiences that start to come to your mind if you think back that far?
Yeah, it's kind of a stupid one, but I always felt like when I was a kid that I needed to sit at the adult table. I know I don't know if this, I think back to my mom never waking up to get me off to school, where I'm 6 years old and I'm getting dressed and brushing my teeth and taking care of myself to get myself to kindergarten type of stuff. There's no breakfast in the morning. I have to make my own cereal before I go.
Okay. So David, now you see how the mind's starting to kind of have this recall of all these experiences that confirm that you're not understood, you're not validated, you're not listened to. Now take that feeling that little kid is having, juxtapose that against the fact that the little kid at 7 years old found something inside of a Playboy magazine that made him feel better.
Yeah.
And now you take what that little boy learns by going, I don't feel validated, I don't feel listened to, I don't feel, important. But this thing makes me feel better. This thing has femininity, it has sexuality, it has all this stuff. It kind of makes sense that now you step into a relationship, whether it's with your wife or the next woman or whatever else. And you'd be looking for a way to feel better about yourself by consuming them in whatever way you can. Right? Is that kind of where you're going, Brandon?
Yeah.
And so the challenge is that if I continue to try to find the answer for all of those things that started when I was 4 or 5 years old of not feeling understood and validated, if I keep going back to the same place I've always gone, meaning other women. And it's interesting too that you're hedging your bets, that your wife happens to be the one that isn't giving it to you right now, but these other ladies do. But if you were to swap her out for somebody else, you'd want to be going to your wife because she'd probably be the one giving it to you.
Yes.
Right. Like, so the issue isn't the women themselves. The issue is the way that I'm using my relationships to try to scratch an itch that's actually a 4 to 5 year old child's itch.
Okay.
And so the issue is that I need to actually go figure out how to address that itch of the 4 to 5 year old child in a way that's basically non-sexual or like non-consuming of another person.
Yeah. David, you, and I'm not trying to blame mom here, but you being neglected at 6 years old, that's significant. You getting yourself ready for school and having nobody there, that's significant. And a 6-year-old to an adult male, like to an adult, anybody, we can sit here and say, well, that's not that big a deal. Like, get yourself ready for school and go. To a 6-year-old, that rocks your world, and it changes your whole framework of safety and who you are and all of those things. Right. So then you come back to Tyler as a 6-year-old, you interpret that as, I'm bad, I'm not enough, I'm not okay, I'm not seen, all those things. And it was your mom that was neglecting you in a lot of ways. And so I want validation from a woman in order to be okay. And I can get little shots of that by viewing pornography, or I can get big shots of that by having an affair, or I can try to get a shot of that by getting my wife to smile at me and like me. Like, I can do those things.
Okay.
But those things will never actually heal this wound. Never. And if you go back to that little boy who is 6 years old and being neglected, what would you say to him? What would you right now, what would you say to him?
You're going to get through it and things will be okay.
Okay.
It's kind of tough, because then you go to your friend's house and you see how their mom is, where they're up, they're making breakfast for you. It's kind of the June Cleaver thing. And my mom would sleep until like 12, 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So when you go to that 5 or 6 year old and you're saying you're going to get through this and you're going to be okay, stick with that little 5-year-old for a little bit longer. Is there anything else, if you were to have a conversation with him, is there anything else that he would tell you he needed? And is there anything else that you could do for him?
Yeah, he would say he needs friends. And that's been a very, very difficult thing throughout my whole life and I know that's part of the autism, is because I act differently.
Yes.
So I've only managed to have like maybe 1 or 2 friends every school year, and it was always a different friend. And the odd thing is that I really have 3 friends in my life right now. One, I've held on to 40 years of friendship with him. The other one, 30 years of friendship with him, who I met in the military service. And then my wife. And my wife has actually really been my best friend. But, I don't have a lot of people I talk to or can turn to and just have a normal, meaningful conversation with, or friendly banter with, kind of thing.
It's interesting that that's the need that came up when you asked that 5-year-old child what he needed. And it goes right back to the roots of being validated, important, and understood.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, obviously there's a lot of ways to do this, spending time with that 5-year-old and helping to provide him with some of that friendship, even if it comes from you or other places. But then also in your current day-to-day living right now, part of your solution that you're coming up with right now is that you actually need to go cultivate and build friendships with other men. Because those are the things that that would be helping to address the needs of that inner child that you're talking to right now.
Okay.
Right. So going to a 12-step meeting or visiting with your pastor, or actually, I would say even stretching a little bit further and going out to lunch with a few guys in your group occasionally, or going and, doing some activity together, building an actual relationship for the sake of relationship would actually be a really big step in the right direction.
I could definitely do something like that.
Yeah. But that'll come hard because you're probably going to run into some of the same difficulties that you ran into as a child.
Yeah.
It's not going to come easy. It's not like you're going to just go open the door to someplace and be like, all right, guys, I need a group of friends. And boom, it's going to come with invitations. It's going to come with consistency. It's going to come with showing up, and shuffling through certain relationships to get to the right ones and all of that stuff. But that's,
David,
go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. David, you're pretty self-aware. So what Tyler's saying, Tyler's saying, yeah, go make some friends and connect with other men. And you're like, yeah, I can do that. Well, you just said that you have a really hard time doing that.
I do. Yeah.
And so, God has given you a challenge here, and maybe your autism and some of your quirkiness or whatever it is makes it hard for people to want to stay in relationship with you as friends for a long time. And that's a hard thing to say to you, David, because I think everybody deserves friends, but you're aware that that's there. So it might take a bit more inertia and a bit more consistency and a bit more of an effort. But you've built long-term friendships. You have you have 3 long-term friends in your life.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely capable. And it's going to be a little bit harder for you. Mm-hmm. And in that difficulty, that struggle to make those friends, it might be a blessing in that you're really sifting out and finding people who really do love you and who are really, really good friends. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a challenge, and you know that. Yeah,
because I've always felt like I don't need a lot of friends.
Right.
And that's because I grew up not having a lot of friends.
Right.
So I even said, well, not having a lot of friends means fewer Christmas cards to write. That's how I compartmentalize that for myself there.
Yeah. I kind of want to know, David, just curious, as Brandon and I have been talking, you've been very agreeable with us, but I'd like to know what's like going on underneath the surface of your response. If you were to kind of tap into your current emotions right now as we're talking, what would you say that you're feeling?
The first thing is a lot of regret, and shame for what I did. The other thing is like, I don't know how to explain it. Well, I don't know the right word for this feeling, but it's like a challenge. Okay, I have to do this because I have to get better. And it means going out of my comfort zone to do something like this. With the autism, I've always avoided crowds and parties and stuff like that. Where my friends would have a party, I never wanted to go, even during high school and stuff like that. I just, that kind of thing doesn't move me or anything like that. So, but I know I need to start doing these kind of things. And so it's going to be very uncomfortable for me, but still I got to force myself to kind of do it.
So you're feeling a little bit of press of discomfort, like, this is going to be miserable.
Yeah, because then, okay, what if I like this person? They're cool. But they don't like me because I either delve too much into politics or too much into my religion, or I feel that I can't talk with them about what's going on with me because I'm ashamed that they're going to find out.
Yeah.
And both my other friends know what's going on. And, and that's probably because I've known them for such a long time. One of my friends actually has his own addictions as well. But it was very hard for me to become open with them. And it just happened by accident that I started opening up to them. So that's the worst thing is wanting to have a friendship, wanting to be open and talk to somebody and feel good about it, but having that shame there where, oh my gosh, what if I tell them I have this addiction to porn? how are they going to look at me? Are they going to still talk to me? Is everything going to be awkward at that point? So that's my biggest problem with making friends now.
Which makes a lot of sense. It's like you're stuck in this rock and a hard spot space where it's either I stay safe, but then I don't actually end up having the right kinds of connections to help me move through this, or I take the risk and run the risk that maybe I get rejected again and again, which is probably likely to partially happen.
Yeah.
If I were to view it differently and see it as a sifting process rather than a confirmation that I'm not good enough, it might be a little bit easier, but no matter what, it's still going to be hard.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the challenge is that it takes so much work and effort to try to cultivate a relationship. I'm not suggesting you go to like church next week and find a guy that you think is pretty cool and say, hey, we need to sit down so I can tell you all about my porn use.
Yeah.
What I am suggesting is that maybe you go outside of your comfort zone just enough to introduce yourself to him and say hi and talk about something trivial. And then the next week you sit by him at church and check in and see how his week was, or ask him about his family. And then the next week, maybe you invite him and his wife to come over and play games for a night. And then you build a friendship. And if it continues to grow, eventually it'll get to that spot you're afraid of, but it'll get there in an organic way that allows you to share your story rather than just, I better go share my story to somebody because that's what's going to happen. Like,
yeah.
But that takes work. That takes effort. And if you go and build a friendship that ends up only going to a certain level, then you have to reallocate some of your time and energy to other new relationships until you find the right relationships that will yield for you the connection that you're looking for. And that takes work, and that's a process. And you'll probably sift through a number of people before you get to the right people.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I'm worried about them. If I open up, then they stop everything. And then of course they tell everybody my business. That's the other thing I'm very worried about, because then I get ostracized even more. And it brings me back to being in school where I would just act the way I act. And then the other kids don't want to talk to me or whatever, play with me if at a young age or whatever, because I'm different.
David, this might shift gears a little, but what was your relationship like with Dad?
My dad is I like my dad a lot. I love him. There was like no relationship there. We're developing a relationship now because we have more things in common now. I'm going to school. I'm getting good grades in college, 53 years old, and I'm actually starting school and doing really good.
Wow.
And
good job, David.
Yeah, thank you. We have that in common. But growing up, he was into doing woodwork in the garage, and he was doing other things. He had his business, and he's doing computers back when computers weren't even really heard of, with programming and stuff like that, and stuff that I just was never interested in. I don't.
Was he emotionally connected? Was he autistic himself?
No. You know what? He could be autistic. I know he's got an extremely high IQ, genius, like 138 levels, what it was recorded at. But I really have nothing in common with him. I mean, when my son was born, my wife and we had talked like we're going to do things that our parents didn't do, and that was every day I tell my son I love him. I never hear that from my dad unless I tell him first. So that's the kind of stuff that, I want to make sure my son. Do you hear that from God every day for yourself? I have, like in the last couple of weeks, maybe even last month, I've actually heard that. And it's not only the stuff I read, but the prayers that I've seen have been answered. So I know that's there. But with my dad, it's like, why can't you do this? Why don't you come in the garage and help me do this? And that's not my thing.
I mean, you can really, when you tell your story, David, you can really see what's been missing. And if you were to tell me all of your childhood and everything, I would probably predict that you're struggling with some kind of sex addiction, or intimacy. There'd obviously be attachment issues there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious. with the type of trauma that you have had. And so the thing that you need is so simple. It's just so simple. You need to know that you're loved and know that you're seen and know that you're important. And so you need to know that. And where you've taken that question keeps actually backfiring and making your wife want to be a bit more distant.
Yeah.
And so it's backfiring and proving true this belief inside of yourself that you're not important, that you're not lovable, and that you're not okay. And so to take this question somewhere completely different, and I'm talking about on the daily, I'm talking about all the time, take that question to God and say, am I loved? I want to notice every day how I am loved. I'm going to journal about that every single day. I'm going to pray to God every day and thank him for giving me love today. So you start to see it and you start to feel it consistently and deep inside of your heart, because that's what you need. Do you see that?
Yes.
It's not about needing your wife to love you a certain way so then everything can be okay. You need that first, so then your relationship with your wife can start to flourish.
Okay.
So Brandon kind of spelled it out there, but I just want to be really clear with it for you and for our listeners that one of the things that could be very beneficial is it sounds like you're already wrestling with your own relationship with God. And maybe something that Brandon's suggesting is that in almost a little bit of a formal way, ask yourself the question, how is God showing his love for me today? And do some journaling on that every single day.
Okay.
That could come in the form of an interaction. Maybe God's loving you through being on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Maybe God's loving you through the sunset you see tonight. Maybe God's loving you through a song that comes on the radio at a particular time with a certain emotion. But if I start turning my eyes to finding how I'm loved, eventually I'm going to feel more and more often that I actually am loved and seen. And then I'll be able to use myself as an instrument in my relationships to offer strength rather than to need to take it from others.
Okay.
Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. David, it's interesting you talk about people having a hard time being your friend, because in talking to you today, you're very interesting. It sounds like you're very talented. You're very interesting. You talk about politics and religion and all those things. Like I think that's fun stuff to connect on.
It can be until somebody has a different view. I can't tell you the number of people that deleted me off of Facebook.
Really?
Just for different political views.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But what Brandon's getting at is that you're still interesting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're still, and I think it's that idea of adopting the mentality of the sifting, of finding the right people and keeping the connection within the boundaries that are going to not blow up in my face.
Yeah.
Because that's really what you're doing in your relationships with these other women at work too, is you're looking for a way to feel validated and have these conversations and be interesting, but it's not boundaried in a way that it protects the fidelity of your marriage. And then it causes all sorts of problems for you and for everybody else too. It cashes checks on your own conscience that aren't good because it fuels your shame. And so establishing the right kinds of boundaries in ways to connect with the right kinds of people is going to be a big deal too.
Okay.
So,
David, how are you feeling?
I feel better. It's just, I'm also feeling uptight about trying to go out there and make new friends.
Yeah. We'd love to hear from you. If you could check in with us and kind of tell us how that goes. You might fail a lot, and then we could talk about that later. Or you might totally succeed. But act opposite to your shame. And
what do you mean by that?
So instead of trying to prove your worth, know that you are valuable, and then act that way every day.
Okay.
Know that you are loved. And so instead of trying to consume your wife to be okay, know that you are okay, and then love her.
At least act that way.
Yeah, I could go. So there's this process of change for you that's going to be uncomfortable. You've lived in a system of I'm unlovable, I'm unimportant, and that's how you viewed yourself. So to act opposite of that is going to be very uncomfortable until you do it for a while and get comfortable with I am loved. God is always here. God sees me. And so I'm not what I thought I was for all of those years until I was 52 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take a little bit of discomfort to be a vulnerable, honest man. You've worked extremely hard on empathy. Keep doing that. That's acting opposite your shame. And then you'll start to see some real change within your heart. And that's ultimately what we're going for. So thank you so much for coming on today. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You guys, all you listeners, thank you for being here with us. And David, thank you for putting yourself out there to help others as well. So
yeah, and I definitely will be checking back in with you guys, and maybe we can do a follow-up with my wife on the show as well.
Would love it. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have a great week.
Okay, we'll see you.
Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.